What up, friends? I'm certainly not, and today we're going to be reviewing aespa's newest mini-album, Rich Man. This is the 6th mini-album overall by K-pop girl group aespa. aespa just keep the projects coming at this point. This one is coming off right after 2024's Whiplash, alongside the singles Dark Arts and the very underrated Dirty Work that they put out this year too. Dirty Work especially is a song that I think people have been really sleeping on in aespa's discography lately. It kind of returns to that sort of gritty and fuzzy pop sound that they were experimenting with Spicy and the My World era mini-album, and I think that was one of their best projects to date, and I really like what they did with this single. Granted, that song was not on this project, it was just a single, but aespa was also teasing a sort of like rock comeback with Rich Man, and I was really interested in seeing how they would carry on that sort of fuzzy pop sound from Dirty Work into a sort of rock-themed comeback. Unfortunately, the rock influences on this comeback are pretty surface level. It largely doesn't go any deeper than the actual concept photos themselves. Sure, the title track has a few pop rock themed moments, but it's not as bold as I was expecting from them, to be honest. It's also not very cohesive or interesting compared to a lot of their other projects either. In fact, I would go as far to say this is probably aespa's weakest project to date. It does not have the creativity or boldness that they are known for. The title track, Rich Man, is really the only song on this project to have that sort of rock instrumental that they were teasing, and, you know, it's fine. The main guitar riff is nice enough, and I do like how punchy the beat is. Winter's ad-libs are also a pretty fun addition to the fuzzy instrumental, but that chorus is just very limp for how big the build-up to it is. The song overall is just very repetitive. Even if it does have a nice combination of gritty and elegant moments, there's just not a lot of different and interesting things going on in it. Giselle's rap part was also pretty decent, but it felt like something that should have had its own verse or its own bridge, and it kind of just abruptly ends. It's not a bad title track per se, but it's just not all that memorable either, and I don't think it takes advantage of the rock theming it was supposed to have nearly as well as it should have. Next up we get to Drift, and now we're fucking talking. This is something that's right up aespa's alley, a very noisy pop track with a really catchy whistle beat and these sound effects that are not unlike something like Injury Reserve's Jailbreak the Tesla. It actually kind of has a sort of old school hip hop vibe in the flows on this one, which I think fits the beat perfectly. I also think that the low-key chorus actually fits the cocky attitude of this song well, compared to something like Rich Man, which kind of felt limp and lifeless and not as bombastic as it should have been. This one actually, I think, fits the sort of like suave confidence that they have on display here. The lyrics are just them flexing and aura farming, but they do it well. The cowbell on the outro also adds a really fun twist to the beat, and the way all the instrumentals come together near the end is just excellent. Bubble is another one of my favorites, and arguably one of their weirdest songs, to be honest. Granted, I also tend to like aespa's weirder songs, so this should come as no surprise. The Bop It intro was a nice little throwback, and the beat, while simple, is actually even more memorable because of that for some reason. It really does have a poppy and bouncy attitude to it that really gives the song a playful vibe. Ning's parts in particular are also very well done, especially when they cut the beat and let her vocals just hang for a little bit. Like, oh, that's just so good. Karina's full English rap is also very fun. I just really like the vibe of this one in the lyrics, with how they're just kind of chilling, having fun, having a good time, while this guy that they're with is seemingly like making a fool of himself. It's kind of funny, to be honest. It's such a weirdly experimental track on a project that's very unremarkable on the whole, but you know what? I'm not complaining. Next up we get to Count on Me, this track's obligatory contemporary R&B ballad. Compared to the ones on Whiplash though, this one is not nearly as much of a standout. It's not bad per se, and I do dig the vocal melodies here, but the instrumental is just doing nothing for me. The repeated sample is just kind of there, and there's honestly not really much else to this beat at all. It's pleasant enough, but it's also just not really much of anything. There's also no real switch-ups to make it less boring either, which is kind of baffling considering that this is one of the longer songs on the project. The sort of like toxic relationship vibe that's going on in the lyrics here could have been interesting, but they're not really extrapolating on it all that much, and it's also not really reflected in the instrumental all that much either, I find. Next up we get to Angel 48, and you'd think with a song title like this we were in for something pretty experimental, but It's not. The verses start out somewhat promising with a sort of low-key house-inspired angle, but the chorus is just painfully bland, and the song just never really escapes that, unfortunately. The whole song being in English is kind of fun and also pretty different for aespa, but man, it just does not change how boring this song is to listen to, and also just how unfitting it is compared to everything that came before it on the project. It's just an underbaked dance tune that feels totally disconnected with the vibe of all the other songs that we've just heard. At best, it's inoffensive, but when we have songs like Drift and Bubble on this thing, a skeletal dance song just does not cut it. To the Girls ends the project on a fairly similar note, actually, to Just Another Girl from Whiplash, but like, worse? Again, the sentiment of the song is fine, but the instrumental is just, it's this, again, generic arena pop banger with an overly bombastic chorus that doesn't actually make me feel anything. I can appreciate that the guitar finally comes back from Rich Man, considering none of the other songs on here had it, but I wish they just fully committed to the sort of pop rock girl band instead of just shoving the guitar in the background and calling it a day. With how experimental that they get with their dance pop stuff, it really could have been an interesting direction to see them go for like a No Doubt sort of angle or something like that, but instead, we just get a normal, generic pop song, and they just throw a guitar into it. It's like, that's not interesting at all. In a way, I also think this song kind of rounds out how underbaked this mini-album's concept is, to be honest. Unfortunately, the newest project, this newest mini-album by aespa, it was kind of a miss for me overall. I wouldn't say it's like egregiously bad or anything, but Drift and Bubble were really the only interesting moments on this thing, and they're largely not even what this concept was supposed to be. In fact, jumping off of that, I think this is probably aespa's most inconsistent project, instrumental-wise, to date. At least a mini album that I didn't totally care for, like Girls, had a somewhat consistent sound, but this one just sounds like they picked a bunch of random songs and just threw them together, not caring about how they related to each other at all, or not even really caring if they matched the concept of the project overall. Again, like I said, a sort of girl band project from aespa could have been really interesting. Take a sort of like pop punk direction like No Doubt, or even just a pop rock direction. It would have been cool and something different for a sort of K-pop girl group, not something you see every day, but they just didn't really commit to it. It just really sounds like they wanted the aesthetic of this sort of like rock band for the promo pictures for Rich Man, but didn't bother to actually construct an instrumental around the concept. Like I said, the two best songs on the project were the more experimental electronic stuff, the stuff that's more reminiscent of their earlier work, not the one that I feel like this comeback was supposed to be about. And it's unfortunate that this one was such a miss, considering that their previous mini-album Whiplash was pretty damn good, and I also really love the gritty pop vibes of their single Dirty Work. I feel like making a mini-album kind of in the vein of Dirty Work would have been far more interesting than whatever we got here. All in all, I'm feeling a decent 5 on this newest project by aespa. Of course, we do have to talk about album covers on this show, and keeping with the theme of modern aespa sort of digital album covers, it is very much just an object on a black background or a colored background or whatever they choose to do for that day. This one is a guitar pick, which again fits the sort of like pop rock theming of the, let's say, photo shoots of Rich Man, not very much the sound per se of the mini album as a whole. In a way, I feel like this one only really fits the one song, the title track, and that's it. It's not that interesting of a design, to be honest, so I don't know how well this album cover does in kind of encapsulating the project as a whole. But of course, those are just my thoughts on this newest mini-album by aespa. What did you guys think? Did you actually think that they performed and pulled off the concept pretty well? Or was it not nearly as committed to this sort of girl band aesthetic as you and I would have liked? Let me know. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, and maybe you'll be a rich man. Make me a rich man, please. But until the next one, farewell.